Hey there everyone, Michael Damon here with the latest episode of Starbeam.one, Stand Up and Shine and Chill. It's a series I put together to keep people up to date with my project Starbeam.one. This show is modeled after the agile methodology of a stand-up where you tell your teammates what you're working on, what you're going to be working on, and any sort of friction points that you are encountering, and I've added so much more. Let's begin. Woohoo! Happy holidays! It's December, which was crazy to think that last month was November, and now here we are in December. And so I've got the snowman out with some snowflakes there and a little bit of snow. I think there's some snow across the different countries that participate in such activities. And yeah, so happy holidays out there. It is December. Make sure you get your gift shopping underway. I am going to be doing that soon. This is unlike me to wait so late, but I will be doing that here maybe today after the show. Okay, so really big news here is that we do have Beta 3. Beta 3 is announced today, and this is like a big issue, a big thing, a big news item, and so yeah, it's big news, but it's more of a quality update, and there aren't really a lot of features to show off, but I'm really happy with it. You know, I'm almost tempted to say that next month I'm actually going to convert Beta 3 into version 1 because I feel this is a version 1 product that we have now. It's working really well, and with the new, you know, and I actually just had this thought like 2 days ago before this release for Beta 3, and I was like, you know, I could name it version 1 because we're pretty much done, and it's working really well too. So I'm really happy with everything, and actually I'm thinking maybe the beginning of January, on the first show of January, I might name this version 1, and we will talk a little bit about why that is the case because of subscriptions, and that's kind of the next big item here, and I'm going to be talking about that. And I also talked about that in the blog post. I'll make sure to put the blog post link in the description for the YouTube so you can check it out, and kind of did a little bit of a retrospective around that today with the announcement, and kind of just talked about, you know, where we've been for the past 4 years now, over 4 years, and where we're going for the next one. And so you can check that out in the description there in the YouTube video that you're probably watching right now, and we'll talk about the subscriptions here in one of these next slides here. But first, let's talk about what I did these past 2 weeks. And last time I mentioned I was working on .NET 8, and that was actually working really well. That was transferred over just fine for Azure, and I was really surprised with that because there's usually something with Azure each and every time. And when I first tested this, it was in a it was in the testing environment. Testing environment worked just fine, but when I pushed it to staging, that's when I had some problems. And so there was a whole week and a half that I have spent with Azure support. I know I've talked about Azure support. I try to be friendly with them, but it's very difficult to do. But it took 10 days. It took 10 days with an Azure support ticket to figure out the exact slot that it was occurring in, the app service slot, and it was such an aggravation. I'm getting aggravated just thinking about it now with dealing with that, and it was really such a challenge to my patients. And, you know, I started it out as a priority B ticket, and, you know, which is moderately impact, which I was, you know, I still had, you know, some workarounds I could possibly do, and I ended up with a workaround, which was just not use .NET 8, excuse me. If I set it to .NET 7 in the app service, it worked fine. If I even set it to .NET 6 in the app service, even though it was compiled to .NET 8, it worked fine. So specifically setting it to .NET 8 caused a problem, and they just really are having trouble figuring out what's going on. And there's an error that's being thrown. It's a 503 error that's being, which means that the service is not available. There's no error on their end. There's no errors presented to me, or otherwise I wouldn't have to open a ticket. So it's just this really weird error, and it's kind of, you know, what's frustrating is that they keep pushing it off to me. It's like something that I did, and you know, that might be the case, but it's just like, can't you look in your side too? That's sort of the big thing with them. It's like, you know, you have availability or access to the infrastructure there. Can't you take a look in that and find out what's going on? Anyways, so that's been my week there. Week and a half. You know, again, a week just figuring out where this exception was occurring. But after that, I finished out the one last story of the administration application. That's done. Everything's working really well now. So now I have an ability. Before, the way that we were doing entity framework migrations was not good. So it was basically whenever I did a deployment, I did a migration. So if there's a problem that happened during that, then I was kind of in a really rough spot. So now migrations are manual. Migrations are deliberate. So I deliberately have to go into a section in my administration application and start the migration. So that's much better. It's a much better feeling of, how that works. And then the other thing that I was able to do with that was improve the permissions around that. So the gateway application, the www entry application, was the one that was doing the migrations, and that required particular permissions. But then now that's been moved to an administration application. It's a little bit more secure, and I'm feeling really good about that. So that's taken care of. And then finally, the last thing that occurs now is data commands. So if we have data migrations, so when I talked about migrations before, that's more schema. That's the design of the tables and whatnot. So that is done deliberately and manually now. And it's now the same thing can also occur with data. So if we have a new model that's in place and we have the old model that's existing in there, now I just perform these data commands that migrate the data over to the new model. And so now that's all in place, and then that's going to be really important for our next step here. Okay, so now what am I doing? So now I'm, this whole issue now with, beta 3, and now we've got beta 4, and it's actually going to be version 1. And so that's kind of one of the things I was mentioning, is that I want to call it version 1, but we're going to keep the same interface and everything's going to look the same. It's just going to be model changes, and people might have a problem with that, but you know what? So what? It's kind of what I'm thinking, because this is version 1, and I'm really happy with it, and I just think that we're going to be adding new features, and we're going to be, we add these new features, it's basically going to be a new product. So what I'm going to be working on here is beta 3 cleanup. So there's some few things now that we've got the model deployed. I'm going to go through and clean up a few things and then redeploy the cleanup, or remove some properties and some entities that we're not using anymore. And so that's just going to be some cleanup there. And then it's on to subscriptions. And this is going to be a different model altogether. This is kind of why I'm thinking like version 1, version 2, or maybe even like version 1.5, because these subscriptions are going to be completely different. And they're actually a return to what I was trying to do about a year ago, and I described this in the blog post this morning that I wrote. It's deployed, and again, you can see that in the YouTube description here, and the link should be in there. But basically, I had this thought of higher quantity and lower prices. So you get a bunch of people to follow you and buy your art. And that's kind of the one thing that we're missing from NFTs. Even really successful or popular NFT people, artists out there, don't really have a lot of people buying from them. They'll probably have like maybe 10 or 20 at the very most. I haven't seen any much past that. And then what you'll see is that they'll buy a lot and then they'll stop. And then they'll go for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks without any purchases, and then they'll start up again. It's really odd. It's really weird. I don't think it's really viable, right? And so what I want to do is I want to return to having what I was originally wanting to do about a year ago, and we were almost there. There were very few things that were just missing, and in hindsight, it's like, oh, we were very close to it. But having, higher quantity and lower prices. And now with subscriptions, this is where you subscribe via Stripe or PayPal, is being able to say, hey, I want to subscribe to this particular artist, and it's going to be a daily thing. So this artist is going to produce one image every day, and they're going to make it available on their channel and or on their account. We're still going through the naming, the nomenclature here, the terminology, and so I'm thinking of calling these channels, and so the artist will provide one image per day on this channel, or whatever we like to call it, and then people subscribe to that. And that's like a very low risk, low effort way of having constant daily engagement, which is what we're really missing now, and what NFTs are missing right now. And NFTs, I hate to compare and contrast, but they cannot do subscriptions like this, because on blockchain, every single transaction requires someone signing off with their key. And so here it's a little bit different, right? We're centralized, and we don't need to have that requirement in place. And so we're able to do something like this, which is also kind of another reason why I want to do it. But mostly is to have that daily engagement that we're missing right now. And so I'm really excited about this, and it's going to be completely different, right? It's going to be a different way of doing this, and I got to get it done fast, because I have 1 month left, or excuse me, 1 year. One year, it feels, with the amount of pressure that I'm feeling, it feels like 1 month, but 1 year of runway left to get this done. So we'll be talking about a little bit more about this as time goes on, and you can read the blog post for a little bit more information. All right, my favorite part of the episode where I complain about things and with Hide the Pain Harold here. And actually, there really isn't a lot of pain. I'm kind of getting used to it, and Twitter's back, though. Unfortunately, we got a problem with Twitter, and they're just taking like 7 to 10 days to reply. Although they are replying, you got to give them credit where it is due, and which is very little. But, they are replying. They're trying to help out. But essentially, they think that we're NFTs, and we are not. And so there's this discussion now about, are they going to give me an ad platform? And the funny thing is, I'm not really going to be using their ads at all because I have tried them already and they weren't very effective. I wasn't really happy with the results. So it's more the principle of the matter, but maybe at some point I might want to do ads and it would be nice to have that there, right? Sort of thing. So it's just the principle of the matter. And even though I'm not using it, it would be nice to have it, sort of thing. And I'm also paying $100 a month for their API. It sort of seems, and also have a few of blue checks that I'm paying for. So over $100 per month to Twitter. It would just seem like, I would see a little bit more in return for that. So yeah, there's a principle of that. And so I'm kind of punching myself in the face and coming back for more, sort of thing. So there's Twitter. I kind of jumped the gun there. Microsoft's still the same. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be much traction. Although with the build times, I noticed, I tried after the latest preview, and then actually it's not as bad as it was. So it was taking up to 40 seconds to compile after a one-line change. Now it's down to 20 seconds. So some improvement there, but they're still there, sort of thing. But overall, not too bad. All right, I'm using a different chair this time, and it's struggling with the background rendering. Oh, there we go. Looks like a little better now. I kind of had to adjust. Okay, so effectiveness levels. This is kind of where we talk about our emotions, and as I like to say, if the world talked about its feelings, the world would be a better place. And so with effectiveness levels, it's kind of the emotional quality of different levels of the project, and I talk about those. And so starting out with morale, overall, it might be a little higher here. I was kind of struggling. I don't want to put it too high because I'm going to get the feeling as scheduling slips, not to put negative words out there, but if that happens, it's going to slide a little lower. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm feeling really good about the direction now, right? And there was a time, and we might still do it at some point, but we were going to add another market or like a premium market where it was invite only, and it was really high price point, sort of thing. We might still do that, but I feel it's in the wrong direction right now. We want to have higher quantity at lower prices, and I think when you go to a lot of people and you see, AI is kind of catching on, right? I saw the CEO of Microsoft post something on LinkedIn with an AI rendering today, kind of promoting Microsoft Designer, a new AI rendering. There's just so many that are out there, and this is like a thing now. And if you look at, if you find the average person, you ask them, how much is that image worth? If you were going to purchase it, is it $100? Is it $200? Or is it $1? Or is it, and remember, keep in mind, it only took 2 minutes to render right now. Or is it less than $1? And I think a majority of people that would say there's a price behind that, it would say like in the lower range, right? And so this is kind of where I'm looking at with subscriptions, and that's I'm just feeling like this is where we should be. This is where I wanted to be when I first started out. I was thinking comic book. Being a comic book artist and, just publishing, right? When you publish comic books, you produce a lot of them and you sell them for very low prices, right? And that's kind of what I want. And that's kind of what I had in mind. We're getting back to that. So morale, long story short, here is higher. Next up is schedule. I'm actually feeling a little bit better about this. We're still down to a year of runway, so there's a pressure there. And the reason why we have a year left is that we have a year left of Microsoft for startups, and they're paying the Azure bills, and that's like $1,000 a month. That's by far the greatest cost of operation right now. And so that's kind of what I'm using as my metric to make this happen. And so I'm feeling better, though. It's a reset, right? We're building a new product, and I'm feeling a lot better about the direction and with the schedule for the moment. Technology is the same, there are some hiccups, but overall it's not bad, and it just seems it's better than what it was. Marketing really not doing a lot right now. I almost wanted to put NA, just not applicable sort of thing, and that's sort of the case here. It's all right, it's not as bad as it was before. Finally, we got support, and that's working as well. Not as much. I don't get a lot of support tickets. It's mostly, direct messages and just talking with people in chats, and nothing too intense or formal. But when that does occur, I'm very much in tune with it. So that's working out pretty well. I always knock on wood there because you just want to keep the good luck going there. All right, that's it for the end of the show here. It's a little longer today, but we're announcing a new beta or version. Next month we'll probably rename this to version 1, and or not. We'll see. Catch us in a month and find out. But I just want to thank everyone out there for all your purchases and support. And we continue to make purchases. We're still sort of treading water right now. It's still sort of it's not just us. It's just NFT marketplaces in general, and that's kind of why we're wanting to do something new with subscriptions to kind of make us stand out, and I think it's going to work. I'm really excited about it. So until next time, stay bright and stay safe out there. Goodbye.